Chosen one, this month did not sneak up on you. It was scheduled. Heaven kept an appointment with your life, and the evidence is the kind of singularity you can feel even when the room is empty. You are carrying a distinction that does not scream for notice, but quietly rearranges the temperature of wherever you stand. It is not a costume or a phase. It is ordination. God has set you apart as the most unique man in your sphere, not to incubate pride, but to incubate purpose, not to parade a body, but to prove a blueprint. The current moving under your skin, what the world calls high sexual energy, is the raw material of creation asking for architecture. In immature hands, it becomes spectacle. In your hands, it is being refined into stewardship. You have been entrusted with voltage precisely because you have learned the beginnings of governance. This uniqueness feels different from attention, and you can tell by your breathing. Attention demands performance and shortens the breath until it becomes a pant. Uniqueness deepens it. You inhale like a man who knows he will not drown in other people's expectations. You exhale like a man who knows he is not required to hurry truth to make it palatable. Your calm is not passivity, it is power conserving itself for assignments that matter. Rooms read this and recalibrate. A frantic conversation finds a slower key. A reckless joke loses its audience. A timid voice gathers courage because your presence does not audition for dominance. You did not arrive to take from the atmosphere. You arrived to set it. The ordination rests on a body, but it is larger than a body. It is an agreement between your appetites and your values, a covenant between desire and direction. You are learning the old art that strong men forget at their peril, to bless your fire without letting it colonize your future. You can acknowledge the charge in your bones without being drafted by it. You can enjoy your form without converting yourself into a product. You can hold admiration like sunlight, warm on the skin, never hoarded in jars. This is why your presence feels rare. You model a masculinity that does not borrow its identity from conquest, a glory that does not need an audience to be true. You will notice that your uniqueness is strangely ordinary in its actual practice. It is the way you stand at peace with your own reflection and therefore do not use others as mirrors. It is the way your sentences arrive whole, unhooked from the bait of flattery or the hook of defensiveness. It is the way your schedule respects your soul, because you have seen what hunger does to judgment and what rest does to courage. The proof of ordination is not the goosebump. It is the governance. Your yes remains believable at midnight. Your no remains kind at noon. Your pace remains human even when opportunity tries to purchase acceleration with praise. There will be tests, and they will not dress as villains. They will look like doors that promise influence while charging you in currency you do not intend to spend. They will look like admiration that lengthens its vowels into entitlement. They will look like nostalgia urging you to prove again what you do not have to prove anymore. You will pass them without theatrics. You will pass them by remembering that not every open door is yours, that not every compliment is a contract, that not every familiar voice is wisdom. Your refusal will be so clean that it will teach others how to refuse without rancor. Your acceptance will be so precise that it will teach others how to say yes without surrender. The mantle on you is not merely vertical, it is communal. Chosen ones around you will draw near because presence clarifies what sermons sometimes complicate. Men will measure themselves by your manner, how you lift without showing off, how you hold without trapping, how you decide without drama. Women will find that their dignity grows louder near your boundaries, because your boundaries were built for hospitality, not for display. Even enemies of your becoming will discover that your integrity is inconvenient to fight against and quietly useful to imitate. The ordination is working when people leave your company more loyal to their values than to your vibe. Do not confuse uniqueness with isolation. This consecration does not place you on an island, it plants you in a garden. The proof is fruit. Where you stand, clarity tastes sweeter. Where you speak, confusion loses its appetite. Where you lead, panic becomes unprofitable. The fruit is also the people who begin to carry themselves with a straighter back, because your example told them that reverence and power are not opposites. Your distinctiveness becomes a commons others can draw from without depleting you, precisely because it is sourced beyond you. Return the mantle nightly to the hands that loaned it. Tell God where you wanted spectacle more than service. Tell him where you were brave without witnesses and where you were weary but chose fidelity over flair. Let him recalibrate you with the quiet that does not need an audience to be real. Sleep does not dim ordination, it preserves it. You are not a bonfire to be admired for a weekend. You are a hearth built for winters. Wake knowing that uniqueness is not a mood you must maintain, but a trust you must steward. Walk knowing that the point of being the most unique man this month is to show that masculinity becomes most itself when it is governed most by love. Chosen ones, uniqueness survives the month only when it learns the language of governance. Governance is not control for control's sake. It is the discipline that lets strength serve rather than devour. The high sexual energy humming through you is proof that you are alive at a voltage many never touch. Governance is how that voltage becomes light instead of wildfire. You will be tempted to believe that force is the same as authority. It is not. Force moves bodies. Authority moves futures. What God is forming in you is the kind of authority that does not need to posture. The kind that can hold a room together with proportion. The kind that turns charisma into culture, so goodness remains when you exit. Strength under governance begins in the conversation you have with your own desire. You do not shame it into silence or indulge it into chaos. You interrogate it like a sovereign who loves his land. What will this build if I bless it? Who will carry the cost if I accelerate it? What part of me is asking for this? Loneliness that needs presence, fear that needs truth, hunger that needs actual bread. Desire rewarded with the right thing at the right time becomes loyalty. Desire fed anything it demands becomes a tyrant. You are learning to feed your hunger in ways that make it trustworthy. That is why your gaze is steady. That is why your hands are gentle. That is why your laugh does not negotiate. Governance also speaks through environment. You choose rooms where your strength is useful rather than flattered. You choose work that asks for patient power rather than performative stamina. You choose friendships that do not need you to be spectacular to be loved. This curation is not precious, it is strategic. You understand that energy is a budget. You refuse to go bankrupt funding other people's theatrical emergencies. You invest where the return is human flourishing. Projects that keep promises, teams that reward honesty, communities that treat consent as culture instead of paperwork. Your calendar becomes a liturgy that teaches your body the truth your mind already believes. You will find that governance makes you paradoxically softer and stronger. Softer because you no longer need to announce your intensity to feel real. Stronger because you no longer waste your force, proving what authority can simply be. Your voice lowers and rooms lean in. Your step unhurried and doors still open. Your boundaries become visible architecture, not invisible electric fences. People relax because the edges hold. Those who came to bargain with your glow discover they must bring their dignity to the table. Those who came to test your limits discover that your restraint is not a challenge to be broken, but a climate to be blessed by. Strength under governance refuses the counterfeit of being needed. Being needed is a flattering addiction that turns kings into firefighters who sleep in their boots and forget their names. You are not needed, you are assigned. Assignment can say no without guilt and yes without bondage. It can end while affection is still intact. It can leave a room better than it found it without demanding a statue on the way out. You will practice leaving like this often, exiting conversations when clarity has landed, ending meetings before fatigue turns good people sharp, stepping away from stages that require you to trade accuracy for volume. Each departure is an act of faith that God is keeping what you cannot personally carry. Your masculinity at this hour is teaching. Not teaching by slogan, but by steadiness that finally gives language to hearts that suspected there was another way. Men who learn to perform toughness will encounter a strength that does not humiliate to prove itself. A power that does not confuse silence with weakness or kindness with surrender. Women who learn to armor up will encounter a presence that does not extract, that multiplies safety without asking for a fee. Children will memorize that a man's loudest sermon is the way he treats the vulnerable when nobody is filming. These lessons are not content, they are culture. You are building them in the way you close your laptop, in the way you apologize with verbs, in the way you celebrate without turning celebration into leverage. Governance does not cancel passion, it consecrates it. The same fire that could have turned you into a spectacle becomes the heat that cures clay into vessels. You channel it into making plans that outlast mood, letters that repair what pride would have prolonged, systems that protect tenderness on days you are not at your best. You discover the delight of finishing. Finishing is a masculine sacrament seldom preached and desperately needed. To finish is to prove that zeal can keep a promise. To finish is to tell your nervous system that devotion is stronger than adrenaline. To finish is to make a place where others can begin. You will not be spared misunderstanding. Some will call your pace cautious because they have worshipped at the altar of urgency. Some will label your edges harsh because they were discipled to think love means access on demand. Some will praise you for the wrong reasons and then withdraw when they learn that your standard includes them too. Do not become a lobbyist for your reputation. Let the harvest testify. Let the marriages you protected by refusing to flirt with chaos become your press release. Let the teams that breathed because you enforced humane timelines become your argument. Let the young who kept their boundaries because you modeled consent become your legacy. At the end of these days, when the high energy hums lower and the house quiets, take inventory like a craftsman. Where did my strength serve instead of display? Where did my desire build instead of bargain? Where did my voice keep tenderness on its feet? Where did my choices make it easier for someone else to keep their word? Where I failed, I repair quickly. Where I succeeded, I give thanks without converting thanks into entitlement. Gratitude keeps governance from hardening into control. Repentance keeps governance from curdling into pride. Chosen ones, this is the structure beneath your uniqueness. A man who can be trusted with himself can be trusted with others. The current in your body is God's vote of confidence that you will not waste his weather. Carry it without apology and without appetite for conquest. Carry it like rain in season, arriving where life needs it, refusing to flood, refusing to perform, refusing to forget the source. If anyone asks how a man can be this singular without becoming a spectacle, speak the truth in a sentence your bones already know. The strength is governed, and the governance is love. Chosen one, uniqueness becomes useful the day it acquires shape. Power without edges is weather. Power with edges is architecture. This month, God is teaching you the geometry of presence, the lines, angles, and proportions that turn raw voltage into a room where others can breathe. Think of your life as a compass drawing circles of safety with a sure wrist. The radius is your reverence, the center is your character, and every step you take expands the circumference where dignity is possible. People will not always know why their shoulders drop when you enter. They will only know that your nearness makes panic too expensive to purchase. That is geometry at work. There's a straight line that must run through everything you do. A plumb line dropped from heaven's hand to yours. It is honesty, uncomplicated by theater. You are learning to align to it before you align to anyone's expectations. It is why you pause before you speak. You are checking the angle of your words against the weight of truth, rather than the lure of applause. It is why your yes does not wobble and your no does not bite. Both are drawn with the same ruler. This is not performance, it is proportion. A man who stands square with what is right does not need to lean on charm to stay upright. Triangles teach you about strength distributed. God places you at one point, purpose at another, people at the third, and asks you to keep tension without tearing. Do not collapse toward yourself as if your uniqueness were the point of it all. Do not collapse toward people as if need were the final authority. Do not collapse toward purpose as if outcomes sanctify every method. Hold the shape. It is in the held tension that wisdom appears, steady and unshowy, like scaffolding around a cathedral that will outlast the season of noise. In this, chosen ones become what storms respect, not because you resist with violence, but because you refuse to fold. Your high sexual energy lives in this geometry as a current that prefers order to chaos. It asks for channels, not spectacle. You give it corridors that lead to building, a schedule that invites devotion at the hour when your body is loud, a practice that turns appetite into art, a discipline that converts restlessness into research and preparation. The world tries to spend a man's strength on improvisation. The Spirit trains you to invest it in mastery. Mastery is not a mood. It is a map you make day by ordinary day until excellence is the most merciful thing about you. People will call it mystery. You will know it as deliberate angles repeated until they became grace. Circles, too, will have their ministry. There must be one you let no stranger enter. The circle of holy privacy where you and God speak without witnesses. In that round room, your motives are weighed without music, your longings are named without shame, your grief is held without headlines. You return to it not because you are fragile, but because you are faithful. The circle keeps the square true. Without it, you would siphon your soul into rooms that cannot pay you back and call it generosity. With it, you pour from a fullness that does not need to be admired to remain abundant. Doorways are the geometry of consent. This month, you will install thresholds that speak before you do. A doorway tells the truth about entry and exit, about who may pass and why, about how quickly or slowly the exchange within should take place. Some will test the hinges because they were taught that love is proved by access on demand. Do not argue with the hinge, let it hold. A man with thresholds is not withholding, he is faithful to the house. Those who care for you will hear the hinge and adjust their pace. Those who sought to consume will hear the hinge and misname it pride. Do not rename yourself to satisfy their misreading. There is also the geometry of time, segments and arcs that determine whether your day is a grindstone or a garden. You are discovering holy math. 15 minutes of prayer that prevents 15 hours of pretense. A single glass of water that keeps an evening from mistaking thirst for destiny. One honest apology that saves a team a month of walking on eggshells. The angles are small, the outcomes are spacious. Strength is not only how much you can carry, it is how precisely you spend your minutes so that the weight you bear blesses rather than breaks. In this math, your uniqueness stops needing a spotlight because your outcomes are lit from within. Learn the ellipse of conversation, the long curve that returns to kindness after passing through hard truth. Some will try to force you into lines that cut and run. You will stay with the curve until understanding catches up. When anger tries to accelerate the room beyond wisdom's ability to steer, you slow your sentence and the arc holds. When flattery tries to turn substance into spectacle, you lengthen the curve with a question that requires reality, not performance. Elliptical patience is not evasion, it is craft. A craftsman does not rush the wood. He follows its grain. You are following the grain of souls, including your own. And then there is the geometry of departure, the angle at which you leave so dignity remains standing. You will exit offers that would make you louder but smaller. You will step away from flirtations that promise heat at the cost of tomorrow's peace. You will end evenings before clarity loses its posture. The door will close softly because the crown you carry is quiet. People will not call you a hero for this. Later, they will call you trustworthy. Trust is the architecture you are drawing. It is the only house that shelters both power and tenderness without suffocating either. Look back from the end of each day and read the shapes you made. Did your presence form a shelter or a stage? Did your words make straight paths or tangled webs? Did your decisions carve doors or trapdoors? Were the angles bent toward self? Bring them to God for straightening. Were the lines held? Offer thanks without turning it into entitlement. Geometry is learned by repetition. So is holiness. Keep drawing the same faithful figures until the ground remembers your hand and others find their footing in what you've built. Chosen ones, there is a reason God made you the most unique man this month, and it is larger than magnetism. He is drafting a blueprint through your days, a plan for manhood that holds both thunder and tenderness in the same frame. Many have seen designs that exalt noise, resemble conquest, and leave rooms full of trophies but few people who feel safe. Your life is being measured to a different scale. Not smaller, truer. The drawing on the table does not erase strength. It refuses to build on the fault line of ego. It does not despise desire. It insists desire become a craftsman, not a drunk architect scribbling until morning. Begin with the foundation that never cracks, a practiced relationship with truth. Truth without love is demolition, and love without truth is decoration. The blueprint requires both. Your voice is learning to carry weight without wounding, to correct without staging humiliation, to defend without borrowing the weapons of the very harm you oppose. When you say I was wrong, load-bearing walls appear where there were only curtains. When you say I don't know, ventilation opens and the room breathes again. When you say not for me, the structure shifts to honor purpose more than popularity. Foundations are rarely Instagrammable. They are what keep roofs from visiting basements. From foundation to framing, discipline becomes timber. Timber must be straight before it is strong. Your disciplines are not a punishment for being powerful. They are the way power becomes predictable enough to trust. Sleep that arrives on schedule is a joist upon which patience can rest. Food that respects your body is a crossbeam that keeps you from mistaking sugar for certainty. Exercise that honors rather than punishes the flesh is a stud that keeps your mood from rewriting your manners. Study that continues long after applause retires is a rafter that holds vision where vibes once sagged. These beams are not romantic to install, but you will hear them sing when storms lean hard. Windows are your transparency, placed at heights that welcome sight and reject voyeurism. You allow people to see process without turning sacredness into spectacle. You speak of growth without selling the parts of your story that do not belong to the crowd. You do not blur lines and call it grace. You install blinds and call it stewardship. Through these windows, light enters and arrogance exits. The blueprint demands sunlight because mold loves secrets. You are not a museum piece. You are a house with morning light and evening warmth. A place where people learn that honesty can live with beauty without either choking. Doorways are your consent made visible. In this house, entry is invited, not assumed. You decide which doors exist and who has keys. There is no hallway where flattery becomes a master key, no back door where panic buys last-minute access, no trapdoor where your loneliness is exploited into compromise. Instead, there are thresholds that bless. They say welcome to what is aligned, later to what is good but not yet, no to what would rot the beams, and goodbye to what refuses repair. A man who sets such doors is not hard, he is hospitable to the future. Utilities are the unseen systems that keep life livable. Your prayer is plumbing, your counsel is wiring, your humor is ventilation. Your self-examination is the breaker panel that trips before a fire hurts the house. The month's high energy fills these systems with pressure. Governance will keep them from bursting. You do not need everyone to understand the schematics. You need the water to be clean, the lights to come on without drama, and the air to circulate so resentment does not settle like dust. People feel these systems as comfort. They cannot quote them, they simply stop bracing. Rooms must be proportioned for the people you love. There is a table long enough for honest disagreement without exile. There is a nursery for fragile beginnings, ideas that are not ready for the marketplace but should not be abandoned to cynicism. There is a study sacred to learning so that your authority keeps receiving rather than calcifying into certainty. There is a guest room where the grieving can close the door and not be performed at. There is a kitchen where laughter is not a currency for cruelty, but a feast that feeds courage. All of this is part of the blueprint, because manhood that cannot host is just theater. The roof is covenant. It covers when weather turns and refuses to keep score during storms. Covenant is not vibes, it is vows. You keep promises when your mood changes because vows were made for wins. You hold confidences when content would pay better because loyalty is not for sale. You repair shingles early, apologies while wounds are still small, so that rot does not grow under charisma. The sight of such a roof calms neighbors who have known houses that looked impressive until the first hard rain revealed shortcuts. You are becoming the opposite of a shortcut. You are becoming shelter. Your high sexual energy belongs here like a well-placed hearth. Heat that gathers, not heat that burns. You steward it as invitation to creation, writing the page that required your full attention, crafting the policy that will protect the quiet person for years, pursuing romance with honor that keeps tomorrow's stories sweet, fathering ideas and people with patience that refuses to turn love into a deadline. The hearth is not an altar to appetite. It is a fire that tells winter it cannot have the house. Those who sit near it remember that desire, when governed, is not a danger, but a dowry the future will bless. Blueprints include egress, the routes by which everyone can leave safely. You make endings part of your design. You end meetings while tenderness is still intact. You end arguments at the first sign that pride has taken the pen from truth. You end seasons without slander. You end patterns that ask your soul to pay rent in anxiety. Exits like these teach those who watch you that masculine strength is not measured in how long you can endure dysfunction, but in how accurately you choose life. Some will call this quitting because they are addicted to collapse. The fruit will say otherwise. Finally, every blueprint needs an inspection. Night is your inspector. You walk the halls of this house with God and tap the walls. Where is there a hollow sound? Where is a draft telling you a seal failed? Where were you impressive instead of present? Where did humility keep the foundation warm? Inspections are not condemnation, they are conservation. You are keeping what matters sound, so that 1,000 ordinary mornings can unfold beneath this roof without the family having to think about the engineering. That is manhood in its mature state, quiet excellence that makes the good life feel unforced. Chosen one, you are not building alone. The great architect is patient with your miscuts and generous with extra lumber. Keep reading the plans when you are celebrated. Keep reading the plans when you are misunderstood. Let your uniqueness be the signature at the corner of a design that serves more than it shines. When others step inside and say they feel safe without being able to tell why, smile in the way builders smile when the beams are true. Then go back to your tools. Blueprints become neighborhoods when chosen ones keep showing up to the work. Chosen one, every gift arrives with a gate and a guard. This month, your distinction is drawing more footsteps than usual, and footsteps stir dust. Dust hides motives. Discernment is the broom you must learn to hold without theatrics. Think of your life as a refinery where everything that approaches admiration, opportunity, romance, partnership is poured through heat and separated by density. Your high energy is the flame, but the flame alone is not wisdom. Wisdom is the way you set the temperature. Too cool, and contaminants cozy up to your future. Too hot, and you scorch good things before they reveal their usefulness. This is the art before you now. Calibrate the burn so the precious rises and the dross knows to leave. You will not be taught by silence alone, for this is a noisy month. People will talk in tones that imply your future is on their tongue. Some will speak prophecy, some will speak projection, some will speak percentages. You answer none of them with panic. You weigh words by 3 scales that never lie: motive, timing, cost. Motive asks, does this serve a larger good or just enlarge my image? Timing asks, is the ripeness real or is this an avocado compliment, soft on the surface, hard at the center? Cost asks, who pays if this goes well, who pays if it does not? When a door flinches under these questions, you know it is painted, not carved. When it holds, you know the wood is sound. Discernment rarely shouts, it simply keeps opening the right doors and allows the wrong ones to grow boring. Not everyone who approaches your harbor is a pilgrim. There are tourists who want the view, merchants who want the margin, and bandits who want the vault. It will tempt you to label with contempt. Resist this smallness. Tourists can still become neighbors. Merchants can learn covenant. Even bandits can be converted by a town that does not leave its windows unlocked and then blame the night. Your task is not to judge souls, it is to guard stewardship. You do this by establishing customs at your docks. Where are we going? What are we carrying? What is the weather plan? Bandits hate paperwork because it requires honesty. Merchants respect it because it makes profit predictable. Pilgrims rejoice because the journey has a chance to end in blessing rather than legend. Discernment is not only for strangers, it is for your own moods. Learn the early warnings your body gives when appetite tries to moonlight as destiny. For some men, it is a tightening in the jaw that wants to bargain with truth. For others, a quickened humor that will sell anyone for a laugh. For you, it might be a pace that sprints past prayer. Call these sensations by their names before they nominate themselves as guides. You are not trying to be a stone. You are training yourself to be a riverbed. Water must move, banks must hold. When desire rises, escort it to the altar of questions that keep you human. Will this require me to misremember my values later? Is the delight I feel the kind that builds tomorrow or only rents tonight? Could I narrate this choice to a boy who looks up to me and still feel my spine straight? The refinery brightens when these are asked, smoke thins, gold appears. Do not ignore how your uniqueness invites confession. People will hand you truth they have never said out loud because your presence feels like a locked room. This is sacred, and sacred things are easily damaged by hurry. The refinery has a wing for confessions: low heat, long time, no audience. The agreements here are simple. Nothing taken in becomes content. Nothing given requires payment. Nothing said must be solved in one sitting. It is astonishing how much healing occurs when a man refuses to monetize tears, refuses to be flattered into access, refuses to make rescue the price of his relevance. The refinery becomes a sanctuary when your yes is to dignity more than to drama.